Well, Syria's interim government has signed a breakthrough deal with the Kurdish-led authority that would bring most of Syria under the control of the new leadership, including crucial oil and gas fields in the country's northeast. The deal was signed by President Ahmed al-Sharaa and the commander of the US-backed Syrian Democratic Forces. It promises to put an end to clashes, grant Kurds constitutional rights and integrate the group into Syria's state institutions and army by the end of the year. The accord comes at a critical time as Sharaa is faced with the fallout from mass killings of the Alawite minority in Syria's coastal region. Joining me for more in the studio is DW reporter Gazia Ohanas. Gazia, what more do we know about the specifics of the deal at this point?
Well, Anthony, a lot of the wording of the deal is vague at the moment, but we do know that the major point of this deal is the integration of the Syrian Democratic Forces, the US-backed Kurdish-led faction, into the Syrian state. Now, this is both on the military and the civilian level, and we don't know exactly how this will happen. Previously, a lot of the talks came to a halt because the leader of the SDF, one of the leaders of the SDF, was pushing more for participation in terms of blocks rather than individual participation. And now we're going to have to wait and see how this is implemented. It's set to be implemented within the end of the year. And it would also mean that the oil fields of Syria in the northeast of Syria would come under the control of the government. Now, this is major because the new government has been struggling to provide services to a lot of the cities under its control. There's been power cuts, there's been a lack of fuel, and getting the control of these fields could help solve some of those problems.
Right, so that's going to be critical, that money coming in. What does it mean for Syria's Kurdish minority and how they're going to interact in this new Syria?
Now, the leader of the Syrian Democratic Forces, the commander who signed on this deal, has called it a new opportunity to build a new Syria, an opportunity to build a new Syria for Kurds. Kurds in Syria are a minority that make up around 10% of the population, but they've been marginalized for decades by the former government, and that is why they had established their autonomous rule in the northeast around a decade ago. Now, this could completely change the policy related to the Kurds. Kurds could be allowed to now start teaching in their own language, to start speaking their language, printing in their language. It could grant them constitutional rights that they've been fighting for decades, if it is implemented in the way that it is said.
The recent sectarian violence in Syria has cast understandable doubt, I guess, over the new government's ability to rule. The fact that they can bring the Kurds to the table and make this deal, what does it say about the new government's ability to rule this new Syria?
The turnaround of this deal has been quite impressive for the new government because recently they excluded the Kurdish leaders from participating in the National Unity Conference that they held. This was meant to decide Syria's political future, and it led to a lot of backlash. Now, al-Sharaa in this short amount of time has turned around and actually secured a deal with the leader. It's a positive sign, it's a good sign at a moment where he's facing a lot of criticism for other sectarian violence that has erupted on Syria's coast. However, a lot of people also see the US playing a huge role in this because President Trump has been wanting to withdraw forces from Syria, and as we know, the US backs these Kurdish factions. So if the US is withdrawing its support, that means they have more incentives to reach an agreement. However, the SDF itself is extremely divided. It's not just one group, but a coalition of different Kurdish factions. We are yet to see if this deal will actually hold and be implemented. But if it does, it is a historic agreement for the Kurdish community as well as the Syrian state that would finally have control over huge swathes of the territory that it has lost over the past decade.
DW reporter Gazia Ohanas, thanks so much.